Marisa Jacobs, Managing Director of Xpatweb, and today we are joined by Phindiwe Mbhele, Director for Corporate Accounts from the Department of Home Affairs. Welcome, Mr. Mbhele.
Thank you very much, Marisa. Always a pleasure being here.
Fantastic. Today we are talking a bit about the immigration landscape in South Africa. It is the beginning of the year, and as we look at the year ahead and we look at the year behind us, I thought we'd take use of this opportunity to talk a bit about the backlog, which was definitely top of the agenda in 2024. So what's the status of that backlog? We talk a bit about the most recent concession, and also talk about some of the initiatives like the Trusted Employer Scheme and the new brand new Trusted Tour Operator Scheme. So I think let's get right into the meat of things, and let me ask you, in terms of the backlog and the backlog eradication project, what is the status of that as we stand now, end of January 2025?
Thank you, Marisa, for that. Maybe if I may start, as you said in the introduction, that there's quite a number of issues that we as the department have been dealing with. One being top of them all being the backlog. You would know that we had a backlog of figures differs, depending on the reports. But what we did this time when we were reporting on our backlog, we reported a backlog on every service and product that we offer as immigration service for which people have made an application and they had not received an outcome. It was somewhere around 300,000. And the reason we came to that number is because we also included applications that we had not been including in our definition of the backlog population. You would also recall in a meeting with investors and business people in August that was held here at Xpatweb. Minister had made a commitment that we would clear the backlog by Christmas, and that was in August. And at that time, when Minister was making that pronouncement, we had actually started the work because we had put all the applications into a population, ring-fenced them, and we had counted our applications to even include applications of 2024 up until April as part of the backlog, and we had started working on them. The good news is that before Christmas, when we looked at the progress that had been made, we were hovering somewhere around 80-something%. Towards December, just before the colleagues went on holiday, we were somewhere between the 90s. And then we got to 91% in the last days of the year, and then eventually we cleared the backlog. Now, the only challenge that we had then was that because of the volume of applications that we were finalizing, we faced a new problem that we've never had before. We ran out of visa labels. Running out of visa labels is in itself an indication of the number of approved applications that were there. So we ran out of visa labels from the government printing works. They had to really do some interventions and printed quite a high number of visa labels for us to issue. So we had a lot of applications and outcomes actually stuck at the printing stage, printing queue, where we had to release those to the applicants. But other than that, in terms of the backlog itself, it has been cleared. And you would also remember that, recall that Minister had also mentioned that it has been cleared. What was left, it was just the mopping up, of whatever applications that were remaining there and there, some of the problematic applications. But the bulk of the backlog, as per its definition, had been cleared by the end of December.
That is definitely a big milestone for the Department of Home Affairs and a big accolade for the new minister to be able to say that he's met that goal, and which was an ambitious goal. We all, when we sat as business and he announced it, we all realized the magnitude of this ambitious goal. So it's with congratulations that I sit here to be able to have this discussion, and that the backlog has been cleared. Just to put that in context for companies and for business, what does it mean for the backlog to be cleared? What was the impact for business of that backlog?
For businesses, it was a huge impact. You recall that by us being unable to issue outcomes on time, we ended up introducing other measures such as concessions to allow people to continue while waiting for the outcome of their visas or the outcome of their applications and so forth. And, some of the businesses, in terms of their internal governance processes, were quite uncomfortable in continuing to employ somebody that does not have a visa. And I can imagine that those employees that would now report to work with a receipt, the time that they now came with a visa, it was quite a huge relief. There's also a link that sometimes we get to miss between some of the introduction of the interventions, like your points-based system, that took away some of the requirements. The requirements of which had also created an administrative burden for us. For instance, we had a lot of applications for waivers of people that were waiving the Department of Labor certificate.
Of course.
Now, by having the Department of Labor certificate being removed from the requirements, it meant that those applications became obsolete because we could not then process an application when there is no longer a requirement for it. So that is the mopping up that the minister is talking about. We are looking into the waivers and saying, but the request here is obsolete. We actually even have waiver applications of people that said, I want to change the condition in South Africa because I cannot go back to my country because of COVID restrictions. So, such requests became overtaken by events. So it was quite a huge relief, not only for us as departmental officials, but also I would want to believe for our clients as well as the corporates that employ them. Yes.
Talking of the mopping up, one of the areas where we still see some form of backlog or delay in terms of processing is definitely in two areas. The one is for permanent residency applications, which we know has always taken longer to process than a normal temporary residence visa application. But there's definitely some of those applications that have been pending for quite some time. So permanent residency on the one side, and then on the other side, appeal applications, where we still see a bit of a backlog. Is there a plan in terms of using that backlog eradication team to perhaps move to those areas, or is there a plan in place from the department to look at also clearing those applications?
Yes, there definitely is a plan. We did anticipate that the clearance of the backlog will then result, for those people that got rejected, will then result in the increase in the volume of applications going through the appeals. And also at the time of dealing with the backlog, appeals as an area already had its own applications that we had to attend to. And there's a number of reasons for that. One of them being that up until I think in December, appeals were mostly done manually. So it was a manual process, moving one file from this desk to the other up until it got finally, decided on. As part of the digitalization of Home Affairs, we've now made the appeal adjudication process in the back office online. So the appeals that go to the Director General are now online, and the appeals that go to the Minister are now online as well. What we are now going to be doing in this first quarter of this year is that we'll then also be looking at receiving applications from abroad that you would know are still manual. You know, an application has to be sent to South Africa via the courier, diplomatic pack, and so forth. We are looking at technology solutions of getting those applications direct into our systems so that then we are able to adjudicate them online as well. And we believe that that will then help us to always have a view of where each application is sitting and for us to be able to finalize them on time.
So based on that feedback in terms of the backlog being cleared, the interventions that are in place to look at current applications taking long, and to connect with a point you made earlier around the concession. The latest concession that was issued was, of course, issued towards the end of December, that extended the concession until the 31st of March this year. And that concession was aimed specifically at anyone who was still waiting for their application to be processed in various different categories, and allowing them to legally stay and continue their activities in South Africa until the 31st of March. With the clearing of the backlog, but still these isolated mopping up items, how do we see the future of those concessions? Do we think concessions are behind us and this is possibly the last one? Or do we foresee that we still might be looking at one or two more as time goes by while this is mopped up, and to make sure that no one is adversely impacted by something that's beyond their control?
Yes. You know, Marisa, concessions are really an anomaly. You know, it basically means that concessions come in to rescue you know, a situation, and you would see that most of the time concessions will come when we are unable to do a certain thing and we want to give that relief to the applicant and so forth. And the main aim of the previous concessions, including the one that was issued in December, Directive 16 of 2024, has always been in recognition of the fact that there are people who have made an application and they have not received an outcome. What do we put in place to make sure that their stay in South Africa continues to be legal? And my thinking is that we might be going towards the eradication of concessions, because concessions really would be addressing issues of the backlog. Or if a concession in future comes, I think it will be more specific to a particular area that we would have identified that there's a backlog there, or maybe there are issues in that space. Yeah.
Thank you for that insight. We've now covered backlog, we've covered the concession. So perhaps let's turn to some of those special projects that the Department of Home Affairs has taken on to give solutions to ongoing need to attract and to grow the economy and to attract skills and visitors. If we look at the Trusted Employer Scheme, that got rolled out on the 1st of March 2024. We almost 1 year later. What is the feedback from the Department of Home Affairs? How has the Trusted Employer Scheme been received, and what are some of the big wins perhaps around that?
Yeah. The Trusted Employer Scheme, you know, I get excited when I talk about the Trusted Employer Scheme.
It's your baby, right?
It's my baby. You know, you read my mind. It's my baby. I really got excited when you introduced the Trusted Employer Scheme. It has been a game changer. It has been a game changer. It is one of those programs that we introduced also flowing out of the Operation Vulindlela report, that we were quick to implement, and it has worked. It has worked wonders. We are receiving feedback from a lot of companies that in terms of our ability to issue outcomes, we are able to do that within the time that we had committed to do so. And so much so that the benefits that the employers have observed when they heard that we are introducing, the points-based system, there was a bit of unease to say, is this going to affect, the manner in which you have been assisting us with Trusted Employer Scheme? And we said, no, that the Trusted Employer Scheme is a different program of the department. It would not be, affected by the points-based system. But it has been, it has been a very exciting game changer, and you won't believe that we have been receiving so many requests to say when is the next rollout of the new TES and so forth, because a lot of companies want to come on board and really participate in the scheme. For us as well as departmental officials, it has offered us a sigh of relief, as you would know that we share now the risk with the employer. Some of the documents that we would have really been onerous about, we are saying to the employer, do the undertaking that you will be responsible for this. So it has really taken off the administrative burden from us. Yeah.
Fantastic. On the Trusted Employer Scheme then, there was a lot of positivity around it when it got first introduced, but there were also those that were nervous and that were judgmental around it, to say, you're making it too easy. How can you say that you trust these employers? And what are you going to do to monitor and to make sure that employers are not taking advantage of this? How has that come into effect for the department? How is the department evaluating and making sure that the integrity of the Trusted Employer Scheme really remains paramount, and that the stakeholders like the Department of Labour, who is responsible for protecting local jobs and for decreasing unemployment numbers, what do you say to them in terms of the Trusted Employer Scheme and the integrity of that scheme?
Marisa, when it comes to issues of immigration, generally you'll find that there are certain sectors of society that would be uneased with certain developments and so forth. And I remember at the time when we introduced the Trusted Employer Scheme, there was this perception and the feeling that, as you are saying, we are making things too easy, and we are going to see an avalanche of foreigners being employed in South African companies and displacing South Africans. And quite the contrary, that has not been the case. That has not been the case. Companies have been able to, some of them, even open more branches for, as a result of skill that they would have brought in, and they have been able to employ South Africans, because now it has become easier to recruit from abroad. And in our observation as well, the quality of applications that are coming in, we are not finding applications that are of a misrepresentation. It's people that are qualified, it's people that are highly skilled, it's people that have years of experience, and most of them really it's people technically skilled, and you also find people in executive positions that have vast amounts of years having worked in different countries. So I think the fear, while genuine, was not real. Was not really real. If I may put it that way, we have not seen an avalanche of applications. We have seen the applications coming in properly, being attended to, and even those applications that the companies that are admitted to the scheme, we have not observed any abuse of their admission to the Trusted Employer Scheme. Yes.
It's been, in fact, so successful, if I may contribute, that you have introduced a new initiative, which is the Trusted Tour Operator Scheme on the back of the Trusted Employer Scheme. Perhaps tell us a little bit more about that. What does that entail?
Yes, the Trusted Employer Scheme is a twin of the TES. While on the TS, we are concentrating and we are focusing on attracting people who are critically skilled, highly qualified people, people with experience. On the trusted tour operator scheme, it is a similar concept. We are trying to position South Africa as a destination of choice to tourists and tour operators. So what we have done is that we have gone out to the market, spoken to tour operators to say, you are organizing tours of tourists in your own country and sending them to other countries and so forth. And we would really appreciate if some of those tourists could be redirected to South Africa. And similar to the conversations and discussions that we had with employers, we got feedback from the tour operators regarding some of the hurdles that they had to go through to bring people to South Africa. You know, some of them would be that we do not have direct flights, maybe from that particular country to South Africa and so forth. And what we have then since then is that we did this as a whole. We did it through a whole of government approach. That it's not only a matter that involves Home Affairs. We had the Department of Tourism, including its agencies, to say, what value proposition can we put to tour operators to say South Africa is a destination of choice for tourists? So what we did is that we sent out expressions of interest to say tour operators that want to apply to be on the scheme can submit their expressions of interest in terms of the requirements that we have, and once they meet those requirements, we'll then admit them to the scheme. As part of phase one, the pilot, we concentrated on one of our biggest markets, which is India and China. We then also included in the package that we give to the tour operators a reductions in terms of requirements, because they were also able to give us feedback to say this requirement and that requirement and that requirement, we are finding them problematic. Not that we are unable to to submit the required documents, but putting them together can be quite onerous. What we then decided was that the documents will still be required, but we'll package it in such a way that the tour operator themselves, they will be the one that would make sure that those documents are available, and they would make an undertaking on behalf of the applicants that they have brought in. And then the second thing is that the tour operators will be responsible for the tourists that they bring into South Africa. So if you bring 50 tourists into South Africa and they are supposed to have departed on a particular date, we would want to see that you brought in 50 and then 50 also departed, so we do not have people that overstay in the country. Yes.
Okay. As we look at those initiatives and the success of those initiatives, and so backlog is eradicated, concession is extended, but we don't anticipate the need for further because the crisis has passed. Trusted employer scheme working well, really a success story. Trusted tour operator scheme coming into effect. We're going to attract more tourists, grow our economy. As Director of Corporate Accounts, working with corporates and companies, in closing to our discussion, how do you see 2025, and what is it a year of for you? What is your anticipation for this year ahead?
I struggle to find the right expressions about how 2025 will be, but I think with the vision of Home Affairs that the Minister has shared with us, 2025 is going to be quite an exciting year for us. There's a lot of initiatives that we will be introducing in the department that are going to put us at another level. We are introducing, as you would know, the main theme is digitalization of all our services and products. We are going to be introducing online application platforms where people really need to apply from home. They do not need to walk into an office and then they can upload the documents and so forth. So for us, it is a year of good news. It is the year of positivity. It is the year of dignity, giving dignity to the applicant. The applicant, finding dignity in the manner in which we interact with them as the department in terms of how we communicate to them regarding the requirements, and also how we deal with their applications that they have sent through to us, and us being able to give them a response, for the things that they've applied for with us, with the department. So it's going to be quite an exciting year. I cannot wait to see all the interventions that we'll be having this year, to the benefit of the applicant, but also for ourselves as well. The introduction of technology is also for our benefit as employees of the department, in the sense that it makes lighter of our work. It cuts off some of the onerous processes, and actually assist us in doing more with the less capacity that we have.
An exciting year for the department and an exciting year for employers. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today and for the insightful discussion. Thank you to our viewers, thank you to our listeners. Please follow our channel for more insightful discussions, and we look forward to engaging with you. Until later.
Thank you.
Tune into the Work Permit South Africa podcast and let us turn that maze into a clear path forward.